Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Darren Smith along with Steve Walls, and we'd like to welcome you to the pregame cheat sheet where Kansas City Chiefs will be taking on the Detroit Lions in the Sunday night football matchup that, Steve, I would say for most people would believe is a must-win game for the Chiefs who entered tonight's game with the 2-3 record while Detroit comes in 4-1 on the season.
Most people, I'm included in most people. Yeah, you were very correct. I feel like this is same as what I thought last week, and that's you gotta start turning that corner because if you don't, you're gonna lose ground with Denver and also the Chargers.
Last time these two teams played, of course, if a lot of Chiefs fans remember, was the home opener 2 years ago when the Chiefs
Hmm.
were defending their, where they were, had the banner drop and they were defending their Super Bowl title. They lost that game 21-20. Of course, Travis Kelce didn't play in that game, and Chris Jones sat in the suites in that game with his agent looking for a new contract, which he got subsequently following the Chiefs' loss in that game. So, listening to the pundits and the naysayers, again, shockingly, Kansas City, even though this is a must-win game, and of course they lost Monday night's game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they are the favorites in tonight's game. I think I saw -2.5, even though this team that they're playing is averaging, well, they're on pace to have to score the second most amount of points in NFL history, averaging more than 30 points a game.
And I didn't know. So the lines come out, on Monday, but Tuesdays really. Were they that favorite? Were they the favorite on Tuesday night of this
I
week,
thought
or
initially
was
after
it
the
Monday?
game, I thought the Lions were 1.5 point favorites, and I think it somehow swung overnight, or somehow by the time that we were doing our show on Tuesday, they were, the Chiefs were the favorite. And shout out to everyone that's watching across our social media platforms on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Shout out to my mom. I know you're watching right now because you sent me a text. But Steve, when we look at tonight's matchup, Chiefs are going to be without their left tackle, along with, of course,
Mhm.
Detroit. They're going to be without their left tackle, but Josh Simmons is a late inactive or late scratch for tonight's game, where Jalen Moore is going to be starting in place of him tonight. There's a family situation going on with Josh Simmons that I think they were just notified about or found out about today. We don't know the extent or the brevity of it, so we're not even going to assume. But whatever's going on with Josh Simmons' family, we do keep you all on our thoughts and prayers. But now that the Chiefs are not going to have him in tonight's game, and you bring in, of course, Moore is going to be starting, who they got in the offseason
Mhm.
from San Francisco to play left tackle. How do you see the Chiefs lineup, especially on the offensive line, holding up against Aiden Hutchinson and this Detroit pass rush?
Well, you know what? He's trying to play for a new contract right now. I mean, even though
Who?
they Jalen Moore.
He already got a
Well,
contract.
I understand that, but I'm talking
He
about
just got it.
longevity
Okay.
wise. Because you think about it, the Chiefs will possibly need some kind of bargaining chip to bring in. They were talking Alvin Kamara, they were talking Devin A. So I think
Mm.
now you want him to go out there and play well, but not only that, but he needs to go out there and play well. I mean, he hasn't played in a while, right? Like, so I think the Chiefs, especially Patrick Mahomes, need him to go out there and play good because he hasn't had any reps, live reps at left tackle. It's been all, Joshua Simmons, and it was kind of unexpected for him to come in and be the starter
Yeah.
as a rookie. So I think he needs to go out there and play well. Just, I think, for morale's sake for himself.
There's a lot. Look, and we'll get to our picks. We'll talk about the X Factor in just a little bit. But Steve, how much pressure when because you and I were both in Jacksonville Monday night, how much pressure do you feel that the Chiefs are under in winning this ball game after the way the game unfolded Monday night that you and I were at?
Man, you got to understand, like, they were up 14-0, and everybody was watching that game. We were there, and the folks that I know, some people probably watching us that went down to
Yeah,
Jacksonville, you could feel the air come out of that stadium. I mean, you think about this. The Chiefs scored the first touchdown, 7-0.
yeah.
Uh, the Jacksonville Jaguars go back and punt. Chiefs come down and score again, and it's like, man, we just got punched in the mouth. And we watched the body language of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they were like, just
You could
they were losing, they lost the
you
game.
could feel it,
Yeah,
especially in the crowd, especially because you talked about the big
exactly.
Kansas City.
Everybody expected them at that point. It's like, oh man, here we go again. It was an L. And then they come down, score, and then Chiefs punt, going to halftime. They come back, throw an interception, and it just the kind of the domino effect. And after the game, we see this Chiefs team in the locker room, and it was kind of like their best friend passed away or something.
One of the things that you and I in the fourth quarter of last week's game, which I had explained to people they were like, how come we didn't talk to Harrison Bucker? And I had to remind them. And granted, they don't know the back stuff and the minutia. But you and I, we were in the elevator going down and trying to walk around to get set up for post game and stuff and for the locker room stuff like that. We didn't know about the Harrison Bucker about the kick because we were both shocked. Like, how they already get to the, why are they so close already? It's less than a minute so left to go. Like, how did they get to midfield? So that's one of the reasons why. But when we look at what Harrison Bucker was doing, or I mean, it's been every week. It's been something with special teams. Now, special teams
Yeah.
last week let the Chiefs down a lot. Obviously, Harrison Bucker kicking the ball out of bounds at the end of in the ball game, but they had like 4 penalties that we talked about. Like, it
Yeah.
seemed like every time they kicked the ball off or they were receiving the ball, the Chiefs were getting flagged for something.
You
There
know,
were 13 penalties in that game.
you know what? I thought about this at at length earlier this week, and it was why is it that not only you had Chris Jones, who was criticized, and I know we'll talk about that, criticized after the game for
Yeah,
kind of the lax effort, and then you also have Harrison Bucker, who's kind of been going through a rut. And if you remember, I believe it was last year, year before last, he kind of went through the same thing. Super Bowl, when they were both Super Bowl years, he kind of went through the same thing. If you remember when there was a new holder,
yeah.
and the ball wasn't getting quite turned around, and he was missing kicks, and we're like, well, we asked Dave Tobe, like, what's going on, and it was like with a hold, and they didn't quite want to put it on the holder, but
Yeah.
it was something. And I feel like this is kind of similar to that, whether it's the hold or whether it's just. I know Dave Tobe talked about it this week. It was like he just, he just a mistake. He just can't do that.
And when you describe it, because I remember clearly now, I'm just wondering, do you think that was worse than what we're going through right now with him? Because
I mean, a miss is a miss, whether it's the hold or whether it's himself.
yeah,
I mean, a miss is a miss. Because you think about it, and I try to put it in like basketball terms, right? Like
yeah,
Steph Curry's not always on. Like he's going to go through some droughts when he doesn't hit his three. So it's kind of similar. You just got to kind of shoot your way out of it. And I think this is he's got to they have to give him an opportunity to go out there and kick a 50-yard
well,
50-yard bomb.
technically they don't have to if the offense does what it's supposed to
Oh
do,
yeah, oh yeah.
unless we're talking like towards the end of the half or something like that. Steve Walls and Darren Smith were with you live from inside the Arrowhead Stadium press box here on the ninth floor at the stadium, where the Kansas City Chiefs will be hosting the Detroit Lions. Kickoff is a little under a half hour away. The Detroit Lions, of course, coming to the game with a 4-1 record. Kansas City is, of course, 2-3. I want to thank everyone for tuning in right now. That's watching us. Now, Steve, I've got to ask this when it comes to what we saw in Jacksonville. Now, you and I may have a very different opinion about what they did offensively. I still felt that they left points on the board. I was talking to our good friend Jared Bell from USA Today before you came up here, and I told him I'm still not impressed with the offense. Now, granted, maybe I hold them to a high standard because, again, that's what they were leading us to expect throughout the summer training camp and OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
They showed it in the Baltimore Ravens game. And I said after that game, when we were on the field doing post game, I said, if this is what we're going to get week in and week out, there's no excuse for them not to score 30 points a game.
Correct.
And I mean, and they were leading on the way. I still feel that Andy Reid and this coin toss, and I've been consistent about this, that from time to time that works against them because they'll win the coin toss, and of course they always elect to defer. I'm always looking at it. Sometimes you need to put your stamp and put your imprint on the game first and foremost. Early on. The last most of the time this season, Steve, I think maybe the Baltimore game may be the outlier. They have won the coin toss, but they have yet to score minus the Brazil game because they did score the 59-yard
Mm-hmm.
field goal. But they have a problem seems to score at the end of the half and then come back out and score to try to double up to start the third quarter. And of course they didn't do that. That was a missed opportunity between 3 to 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at how things turn out, that could be part of the ball game.
Yeah, I think.
And of course Mahomes with the pick six that didn't help either.
Yeah, I feel like it's Andy Reid. He's a creature of habit. He's not going to change up what he's been doing. I'm pretty sure he's been doing this since forever. I don't see a problem with it. I mean, if you're a fighter, you want to come out and see what your opponent has.
Mhm.
You, we're gonna show I'm good playing defense. If another head coach
Yeah.
that's on the other side, like, all right, well, you show us what you got first. We've got Spags, and we know what he can do. We know what our defense can do, and it's putting a lot of confidence in your defense. But then also it's putting a lot of confidence in your offense, saying that if let's just say Detroit, the Chiefs win a toss and Detroit comes out striking first, it's saying that your offense is capable of going down and scoring.
One of the things I'm worried about in tonight's game, Steve, you look at what the Lions bring in. They lead the league in scoring, averaging 30, almost 35 points a game. Jared Goff, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Mahomes has 8 touchdowns, I think 9 or 10 total. I forgot how many he has on the ground, 1 or 2 on the ground, with 2 interceptions as well. Jared Goff is playing some of the best football of his
Mm.
career, and that's saying a lot considering he led a team to a Super Bowl and what he's done so far with the Detroit Lions. Now, one of the few things that people don't remember, Jared Goff actually has a winning record against Pat. I think he's
Two
one
and
of
0.
well, yeah, well, it might be three yet, but he's one of 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks, I think, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow, that has a winning record. Actually, Jalen Hurts also has one with against him now. So looking at this, they, of course, rely heavily on the running backs and Jameer Gibbs along with David Montgomery, but they've got, but they got speed on the outside and they got tight. I mean, so when you look at them, I can't say that their offense even mirrors Kansas City. I think they have a better offensive lineup, firepower than even Kansas City does. Because Amon St. Brown, he's one of the league leaders in yardages and receptions and touchdowns. You look at their tight end, Sam Laporta. I mean, that's the younger version of Travis Kelce and how to utilize him. And then, of course, when you look at of the running back situation, they had a two-headed monster where both players average 1,000 yards, per a scrimmage, on that team, and that's unheard of.
Yeah, you say that, and I part of me agrees with you, but part of me is just saying that all those same skill position
Mhm.
guys on this Chiefs team have all won Super Bowls. So I think the experience factor comes into play at some point.
Yeah.
And I say that because it's kind of like, you got your big brother who is has been there before you and has already done this, right? They've
Mhm.
been where you're trying to go. They've been to that mountaintop, right? Or he's your big brother's been to that mountaintop. It's like, man, I'm trying to get there. Um, so that being said, it's like, yeah, it looks all good and sounds good on paper, but when rubber meets the road, are you guys able to come in the GEHA Field, Arrowhead Stadium, and continue that same thing now? And
Well, technically, they did do it.
yeah, they did, but you right. There was one caveat or two caveats to that.
Mahomes,
What
I mean, Kelsey and
Kelsey and
Jones.
exactly. So knowing what you know now, and the way that the season played out last year or 2 years ago, would you still think that the that first game of the season, banner dropping, so many things happening, no Chris Jones, all that kind of, weighing on you, would you have said that the Chiefs, if they had Chris Jones and Travis Kelsey, would you say that they would have still lost that game?
I think they would have won. I think the Chiefs would have won that
Okay.
game. I think, but it depends on how things would have played out. Because remember, Sky Moore and Kadarius Tony,
Hmm.
they played big parts in the
Of
team
course.
losing that game
Yeah.
last night. So again, if they're there, I think the game was caught a little bit different because it was 21-20,
Right.
and some of the passes that would have went to them would have went to Kelsey and someone else. So in that regard, yes.
But so, I mean, just to answer my question, do I think that this Lions team is a better team?
Well, no. I'm not saying they're better. I'm just, I'm
Okay.
just, I'm just saying. I know. I'm saying that they have better from what we're seeing this year.
Yeah. They
Statistically,
played better.
yes, I mean they're playing better,
They
and
played better.
I mean, and they're just doing all the right things. Where they're not shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to penalties and doing those. Because even the game they lost, the first game of the year with Green Bay, they still put up points, but they also had a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator that they had to get used to and get and replace right away.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is the fact if I look at this schedule of who they beat, right?
Hmm.
You didn't go and have to play at Baltimore. You didn't have to play Jacksonville because Jacksonville's pretty good.
They're pretty good.
They're 4-1.
5-0
Um,
now.
you
They're
just
four and two.
I think their strength of schedule. Because let's see, they played Green Bay, they played Chicago, they did play Baltimore, they beat Cleveland, they beat Cincinnati, a banged up Cincinnati. I mean Cleveland, they trying to figure out their quarterback. Chicago, Baltimore. I mean, they did get Baltimore when Lamar Jackson was playing, but still, it's kind of just like the only credible team right now that you played. or a playoff team that you played is Green Bay.
Well, you talking about for this season?
So far, yeah. The only if season in and out, the only team that would be in the playoffs is Green Bay. Look at who the Chiefs have played already. I mean, the Chargers would possibly be in the playoffs. Jacksonville will be in the playoffs. You had
But the
uh,
Giants aren't going to
the
be there.
Giants will
Well,
be in
they
the play,
could.
possibly.
Yeah.
So I mean, just the strength of schedule so far. And I'm not knocking who they're playing because I mean they're still one the highest scoring offense in the league. But at some point, it's just kind of like, all right, show me what you got.
All right, so Chiefs fans are wondering, Steve, about our X factors for tonight's game. We're going to start obviously on the offensive side of the football as we always do. Who's your X factor for the Chiefs if they're to pull this game out tonight?
Man, that's a good question. I'm going to say the running backs. And the reason I say that is because there's so much. We talked about it a little bit ago. There's so much of Travis Kelce, and you mentioned it in the last week on the Monday Night Show. It's like you can't have Mahomes. They haven't won a game since Mahomes been their leading scorer, and I
Leading rusher, yeah.
leading rusher, yeah. And Patrick said that earlier this week. He said that exact same thing. He's like, well, because he was asked about him running the ball more than he's used to, and he's like, well,
They're 0-3.
I'll try to do whatever we can do to win the game, but me running hasn't kind of helped us so far. So, and it's like kind of a head scratcher thing, and I have to agree with that. So I think the running backs have to take, you know, they have to be challenged. Take the challenge head on, and I
If
feel like
that's
they have
the
to play
case,
well.
just a little push. If that's the case, shouldn't that also fall on the offensive line? Because the offensive line got to give them something. They got to give them something.
Yeah, but they have been. I feel like they had
They
because
they give them the one running back
we
in
talk. Yeah,
particular.
well, they've given
Because
Pacheco.
Rashard Smith has played
He's
well
he's he's
in
I think
limited
he's an
snaps.
energy giver. Pacheco last game, I mean, he said that he's worked on his patience. We can see a little bit of him hitting the hose a little different. So I think my X factor is the running backs. I feel like they have to do something tonight.
To your point on the running backs, how much of it is the fact that any of them have to stay with it? And to get out to him because one of the things that we talked about on the Red Hour is there's no consistency
Hmm.
because it's like you'll get a running back in for one or two snaps and you put somebody else in
Yeah,
and the
I
drive
agree.
continues. So there's no they don't get a chance to really build up any type of momentum or rhythm in the ball game to say to try to get things going.
I would agree with that, but you got to remember, I can't remember who was it that said was it Neil Smith when talking to us Monday that said the running backs are that'll be like rhythm runners,
Mhm.
and so I agree with that, but you can't get 2 yards, 1 yard, stopped at the line of scrimmage. You got to make sure that you're like, hey, we here, let me eat.
I mean, but there have been times we've seen a running back get 7 yards and then he drops back and passes too.
Agreed.
So,
Sometimes, well, I mean,
yeah,
sometimes you got to speak up
we
for
saw,
yourself too. Speak up for yourself.
we saw it against the Eagles.
It's like talk to kids. Speak up for yourself.
um, Steve and I, of course, we're here live inside Arrowhead Press Box. Pregame cheat sheet. Kansas City Chiefs get ready to take on the Detroit Lions in about 20 minutes. Kickoff on NBC and, of course, on Peacock as well. Steve, my X factor for tonight's game. We kind of talked about it, and I've kind of hedged on it. For me, my X factor, I use it every now and then, but it's gonna come down to play calling for me
Mm.
on Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. And if you wanna, if you want to say Matt Nagy don't call plays, then okay, then we'll go with Andy Reid. I said no, but I said it to say when we talk about consistency,
Mm.
they got to be consistent in what they do. They got to figure out who they are
Yeah.
because 2 weeks ago they were going for it on fourth down against the Ravens when they were here because they felt like the Ravens were going to do it.
Right.
Last week they wasn't going for it on fourth down because they had no other choice at the end of the ball game.
Right.
In tonight's game, we know Dan Campbell is going to go for it on fourth down
Yeah.
many times tonight. So they're going to do it to try to either steal an extra possession or steal it, or to
Yeah.
extend the drive. So Andy Reid has to be ready to match fire with that.
And Coach Steve Spagnuolo talked about that. He was asked about them going for it on fourth there. So he's basically like, third down is really second down.
Yeah, because that's what that's what they're going to do.
So yeah, I agree.
So that's my X factor on defense. What are you looking at? And especially because we haven't talked about it yet, but Chris Jones, the last play of the ball game, you and I, we didn't have the vantage point except for what we saw on the screen. But your initial thoughts on that from what you saw, and then what do you see coming out of tonight's game?
Similar to Harrison Bucker, I think you give Chris Jones benefit of the doubt. benefit of the doubt. I mean, he's helped his team get to countless Super Bowls, and
Yep.
he's helped him win. So I feel like you have to give him the benefit of the doubt because there hasn't been another time when people have said, "Oh, Chris Jones quit on a play."
Yeah.
He's always been accountable. He's been held accountable, and he holds others accountable as well. And I feel like, people are like, "Oh, well, he can't quit his social media." Who cares, man? Like, people have an opportunity, or they have a right to say, "Oh, I'm done with social media for a while." And sometimes, and we've heard it. The Chiefs fans can be a little toxic, you know.
A
So
lot.
I think for peace of mind, it's like, all right, I'm shutting this down. And he did say that he shut his social media off like a couple of days before Jacksonville. So
Yeah.
my X factor will be Chris Jones.
Okay.
I think he's definitely going to come out here and um, you know show the reason that he is who he is.
So I was gonna go with the D line because you specified with Chris Jones. I think everything always starts up front because of the running back situation. But you know what? I'm I'm gonna go with the cornerbacks. And I said it because while we talk about
Mm,
Amon St. Brown, and he is great. One
hmm
player that doesn't get a lot of that didn't get talked about a lot, but if you ain't careful, will light you on fire,
Yeah,
Jameson Williams.
yeah, yeah.
And so they have a two-headed monster out there where we know Spags gonna keep his players on the island.
hmm
Now you talk to Trent as we always do after each game, he's always up for the challenge.
hmm
So I'm interested to see how that matchup looks. And of course, look, I mean, I just want to see what the Chiefs do defensively because they've got to put something together against this offense that's putting up 35 points a game. And again, I think it's going to be a race to 30 plus points to whoever for the winner of this ball game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, because you got Jameson Williams who he can catch the ball, he's fast. You got Myron St. Brown who also he's kind of put a target on his back too with the fact that he said Kansas City when he was asked about Kansas City and he was like, "Nah, I wouldn't. I don't like nothing about Kansas City."
Yeah, that's yeah. You must not know about this barbecue, young man.
Right.
And then one last thing about it, man. Sam Laporta,
Yep.
the tight end. So that's going to be something for the linebackers. Drew Tranquil, Leo Chenal, and of course Nick Bolton. They have to be concerned about that. So again, they have many weapons offensively that they can go out there with Kansas City. They can go tit for tat in this game. And so as much as we think it's going to be a defensive battle, which is my mind frame, I think it's going to be a high school game where it's whoever has the ball last, man,
I can agree with that.
and whoever turns the ball over. Patrick Mahomes cannot afford any pick sixes. They
Mm,
definitely can't afford to put the ball on the ground tonight.
yeah.
So before we get out of Steve again, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure you join us tomorrow night between 6:30 7:30 at the red for the red hour. Of course, here across our social media platforms, we definitely want to want to invite you all out to watch us on X, on Facebook Live, and of course on YouTube. Steve Walls, myself, DJ Q, and Sean Tyler. We'll be there talking about this game, and of course, make sure you join us next week. I think next week is a noon game. I think.
I believe so. Yeah.
No, or is
It's a noon game.
noon game?
Raiders.
It's the Raiders, and then of course the week after you've got the Monday. Got another Monday night game with Washington, and the return of Xavier. I'm sorry, of Rasheed
Rasheed
Rice
Rice.
next week as
Yep.
well. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But before we get out of there, I want to thank everyone. I see Talina Wiley tapped in with us. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Steve, let's go with your winner for tonight.
You know what? I got the Chiefs, man. I feel like it's gonna be it's gonna be close. But it's like you said, it's a race to 30, man. But I what's the I don't remember what's the over under? What's the
I think
line?
it was 52 and a half.
52 and a half. All right, I got man. I think it's gonna be under, but I got
Oh,
27-21 Chiefs.
man.
27-21 Chiefs.
Ugh, man, I don't want people being in my DMs or whatever what I'm
At
about to
me.
say.
At me.
But look, this is the first. Look, one of the things that we didn't talk about was the 13 penalties that they had last week.
Mm.
Chris Jones said that they're going to eliminate. They're going to not. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can end all that in just one week. I hope
Well,
that's the case. But
they had four on special teams.
exactly.
And Coach Dave told special teams head assistant coach, special teams coach. Also, he talked about that. He said it was on Jack Cochran, who was their best special teams player. So he said that typically wouldn't happen, but he said some of those were, and not giving an excuse, but just some of those you can't drive a guy to the ground and things like that. So I think
So
they'll clean it up.
we'll see how much they clean up again.
Yeah.
13 to whatever. We'll see what that takes. But um, again, I feel like they. not that you got to convince me, but I have to see it.
Mm. Show me steak.
This is a show me. I have
Mm.
to see how this team calls the plays and stuff offensively because, again, Dan Campbell's going to take those chances, going to take those risks. It's Sunday Night Football for the world to see. And the one thing I will give Kinsey, they don't like to be embarrassed on national television,
So don't.
but
So don't.
but you still
Supposed to
got
be
to do
prime time at home.
you got to do what you got to do. I know Chiefs are 2.5 point favorites, but this is the first time I think I've picked against the Chiefs publicly, and I'm gonna be consistent from what we did
Mm-mm,
right
please
now.
do.
But I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I have Detroit winning 35-32.
Mm.
I just think I just don't know how much defense really going to be played because again, I know the firepower that they have, and the Chiefs know that they have to score as well. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they have to put points on the board. So I don't know, and I don't want to see a situation where we thought that Xavier Worthy was essentially a decoy most of the game last
Yeah.
week after having the big ball game
Yeah.
against the Ravens. So it's not that I've given up on the Chiefs or anything like that, but I'm also trying to be realist. I mean, they're putting up 35 points a game for a reason. And, the Chiefs, when they beat enemies last year, they were averaging 30 some points a game. They were putting points on the board as well. So the Chiefs defensively can, shut down what we saw them do against Baltimore
Mm-hmm.
on a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. But, stranger things have happened,
Okay. All right.
so,
Let's see.
and mind you, I did make this initial pick before the rash of injuries that we saw these teams come out with, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
both of the left tackles as well. But I'm gonna stay consistent, so
Please do.
because we know Steve does it from time to time when you pick against the Chiefs and then want to come around and
Yeah.
act like that pick never happened.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
but all right, so we want to thank you all for joining us. Steve, you want to thank your sponsors before we get out of here?
Yeah, appreciate my friends over at Dealers on Arosa, always making sure that I'm good with the game day look. So go talk to my friend Herman Brown over at Dealers on Arosa in the men's department. He'll take care of you. Also, my friends up right just south of the KCI airport, and that's Reisman Nissan. Go make sure if you're looking for a vehicle, whether it's an SUV or a car, go make sure go talk to them and they'll get you right.
Got to thank Todd White and Todd's Closures and Taylor Suits for getting me right, of course, with the pinstripe look tonight and a little gangster look going on. And, of course, we always want to thank Gates Barbecue, of course, 5 locations across the metro area. I want to thank you for the pregame meal tonight because as Steve is going over and take a look at what they had to offer, we are so very grateful that you all feed us, here for the games, as always. And then, of course, once again, make sure you tune in tomorrow night from 6:30 to 7:30 for the Red Hour. Myself, Steve Walls, DJ Q, and Sean Tyler. Follow Steve Walls at Steve Walls KC. Follow me at Darren Smith NFL across the social media platforms. Post game tonight, Steve and I will bring you the post game show, our post game report following the press conferences, along with the interviews that we do with the players. So, for Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. We will be back here next week at 11 o'clock with our pregame cheat sheet. And then also, new tonight, there's a Chief Squad post-game show on the Lockdown channel that I'll be a part of, along with J.C. Pearson and Aaron Ladd following the game as well. So we'll be pulling a lot of hats tonight. But for Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. I want to thank you so very much for joining us tonight. Go Chiefs. We out.